Hey,
Hey, Justin.
hey, what's up, Josh? How you doing, bud?
All right.
Good, man. Love your shirt, dude.
Say that again.
I said I like your shirt.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, and he's even going backwards. That's the coolest thing ever. I love that. That's
Yeah,
cool. Can you hear me okay?
I can. And is everything's cool on my end?
Yeah, everything sounds great, man. Cool. Thank you for taking the time to be on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
Is there anything you want to promote before we get started?
Oh, I would say check out the new Paris Monster album, Opalus.
Oh, is it a full album out?
Full album.
Oh, nice. Because I saw the single "Thought Three Thoughts."
That's half. Well, that's the latest stuff. I
Okay.
guess check out that too.
Okay,
There's
cool.
been there's been three singles
Yep.
since then too. It's just trying to put something out every month.
Of course. Yeah, I get that. So, are you guys working on and like a upcoming full length, or are you just kind of putting singles out?
We have some singles to put out, and then we're like writing and recording
Okay,
the
cool.
beginning of what would be something else, something new that would be more than a single.
Right. Is Paris your focus right now, or do you do any other sort of side bands? I know you were doing jazz, and are you pretty much done with the Dion Josh Dion band, or are you kind of bouncing from one project to another?
Okay, so the Josh Dion band has not played a gig since 2009.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
And then are you doing like jazz sessions like in a small club or anything with other musicians?
Yeah. I'm a freelance New York musician. I've lived here for over 20 years at this point, and when I'm not playing with Paris Monster, I got because we don't have a totally busy schedule. We were really busy 2017 and 2019, like on the road a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, hopefully we'll get back up to that. But right
Well,
now it's just kind of Northeast, usually 1 to 2 European tours a year,
right.
and just kind of recording and stuff. And then I play gigs. I get to play with some amazing people, guitarists and all kinds of musicians who live in New York. There's a real great scene of creative music that goes on kind of more in Brooklyn,
Yep.
and lots of places to play, especially on weeknights. Cool bands all the time. I play with a guitarist named G.E. Smith. He's got a band with Jim Weeder and sometimes Larry Campbell. Three like amazing guitarists who are kind of in the roots rock blues world. Um, and just, stuff like that, different things in the in anywhere in the Americana roots rock world to jazz, avant-garde, open, whatever, whatever works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Cool. So Sly Stone passed away yesterday. Did he have an impact or an influence on your music?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that on every aspect, like the way that his records sounded, uh is a huge influence. I mean, I still have a rhythm ace. It's like Sly Stone and JJ Cale. I think the way those two artists use the drum machine, those old school drum machine, to me, and then Larry Graham also used it, who
Hmm.
was in Sly and the Family Stone,
Yeah.
in really cool ways that I thought, I got one, and I'm still doing that, and I think it's still just as cool. So I mean, that's just one little thing. Sly Stone, obviously the writing, the singing, the band, like just the fact that just so many different um aspects of his musicianship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot to learn still.
Yep. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was heavy news yesterday. I was just like, "Oh no, we lost another great one." It was super tragic, super tragic. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So you grew up in Connecticut, right? You want to kind of give people like a brief history of your background and kind of how you got involved in music and everything like that?
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, you grew up in Connecticut and then you at a young age, was it your dad and your uncle were both drummers, right?
That's true.
Yep. And then so what were they doing at the time where you were kind of a bit of influence? Were they part of a church band or a band in general?
My dad was a professional drummer. I think that he always was in a band, and therefore, I think financially always had to have some kind of a side hustle.
Yeah.
I think that my dad is really talented with fixing things, electronics, and anything older. He's the kind of guy who loves the details and can really get in there and has a love for that. And I mean, that's just not something you find anymore.
Right.
But back then, I think as well as being a drummer, he could get jobs, at a TV store or any kind of. I know he used to work in the audio visual department at the school that I went to when I was a kid.
Wow.
So he was just one of those guys. So my dad toured. One of the mythical stories in my family is when my parents divorced when I was 5, but
Mhm.
my dad and my mom raised my older brother and um you know traveled around the country while my dad played music when my brother was 5, 6, 7 years old. And so he got to see like all the national parks and all these, and he really had this kind of beautiful traveling experience before he was even 9 years old. And my dad was chasing the dream back then, and so there's some beauty. And my uncle moved to Los Angeles and does gigs and is fantastic. I mean, they're both great. They both studied with the same rudimental drummer, this guy Rod Vincelet. And
Wow.
this gentleman, he passed away a long time ago. He had to be in his 70s. He was my bus driver actually when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so, but he was like this sick rudimental drummer who, like, really had my dad and my uncle study under him and, like, with just the snare drum.
Yeah.
And was really disciplined about that kind of stuff. So they both really have that quality to their playing, and they're both great drummers. And my dad plays in his church now,
Yep.
and as well as like running sound and stuff sometimes, and it's great. I mean, the thing about having a dad drummer, and I meet a lot of people like that. A lot of drummers
Yep.
had dad drummers,
Hmm.
and some had both drummers. Adam Deitch, I think both his parents are drummers. But so yeah, it's a thing because it's in you before you even know it, you
Hmm.
know.
Yep.
And that's how it was for me. And so we had like a great record collection, and a drum set was always readily available. And so that's how I was raised.
Yeah. And so with me as well, my
Mhm.
dad kind of dabbled in it, and
Oh,
then
great. Oh,
my
cool,
first,
man.
my first like introduction, like I had a practice pad. It was one of those where it was like a little pad, but then it had that giant plastic ring around it. And then, I'm practicing, got some drumsticks and stuff like that. And then it was like, okay, now you're in band. So here's a snare drum. So I'm, learning everything on snare drum. And then eventually it was like some El Cheapo drum set. But yeah, dude, that was, I mean, the beginning footsteps and those, little moments are what really makes you a drummer. And what albums were you kind of learning by the book, or were you kind of listening through, or were you learning through albums and stuff like that?
Albums.
Yeah.
I just played records.
Yep. Hmm.
Mm.
That's how I was. Yeah. Which ones were kind of your go-tos? Of course, Zeppelin was mine, and so I was kind of a '90s kid, so Weezer and Green Day and stuff. What were your building blocks of records?
Probably Pink Floyd number one, and the Beatles. There was something about the space of Pink Floyd that was like good for a kid my age to learn
Mhm.
Nick Mason's fills and stuff like that. And I think the music, I was drawn to it. My brother loved that band, and I think Pink Floyd, Zeppelin,
Mhm.
kind of probably just the real pinnacles. But I mean, we had like a lot of just different classic rock records. we had this album by a band called Full Moon, who it's
Yep.
actually I always love to bring this band up because not a lot of people know about it. It was like they had an album in 1972. And it was kind of like jazz fusion with like a Latin raw flair, gospel too. It's just very eclectic, and it's kind of a cult legend amongst musicians, especially folks who are like my parents' age. And so that was an album I loved, and I like kind of know every note on that album because of it being around so much. So I like to bring that one up. But and also just the basic classic rock, you know.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
really good stuff. I mean, I know seeing just, I think one of my early moments was seeing John Bonham in the Song That Remains the Same concert and then
yeah.
doing solos with his hands and then seeing Pompeii with Pink Floyd where he was just the center, like he was the center of the band pretty much through the whole thing. And you really notice that the camera really just kind of points at him pretty much the whole time and then it kind of goes from each band member, but it's one of those rare moments where the drummer's kind of just the central piece of that moment, you know?
Oh man, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of drummers who, drummers always had that. I mean, it's almost like a cliche at this point when everyone leaves the stage and the drummer kind of takes over. And but the way Bonham did it,
Yeah.
his thing, I don't know. It's just amazing. That's hard to do in a big room like that, to have that patience. I don't know. John Bonham to me is the coolest ever. It's like it's hard to be better than that in terms of a sound that's recognizable, being the part of the coolest band, and to just be so damn good. And also now realizing the way the feel of the band was so unique, uh, the way tempos would speed up a little bit at the chorus and really like kind of nail what the feel was. It wasn't metronomic. It was just this big, wonderful thing that the band moved together. And, you know, it's like I feel like that shit doesn't happen as much anymore. It's really cool to notice those things now.
Right. Is there any bands that are on your radar currently that you've been going, oh, wow, you know?
Uh, Man, I gotta be honest. I just hear about things and I make playlists, and I'm not like a person who's like, this is the band I'm into right now. I have been every month this year so far. I take anything I hear and I make a playlist of something that either interests me or influences me, and then I listen to that
Mhm.
when I have a moment. If I'm in the car and I don't have music to learn or whatever, and some of these bands I've never even heard of, and I couldn't even tell you what they are. There's so many, and some of it may be something that like a colleague of mine played on and posted about, and I was like, oh, let me check this out. Some of them stick with me and become a part of my fabric, and some of them I'm like, that's fucking cool, man, and then I move on. You know, but the music I listen to the most is probably older stuff, and I'm probably collecting it on vinyl.
Yep.
And so like there's this one. I really love the Isley Brothers, almost to like a comedic level at this point. And there's this one '80s album that the younger siblings made, Jasper Isley, or Isley Jasper Isley,
Yeah.
called Caravan of Love. And
I
I just can't stop listening to this record. It's just so good. And it's totally a sound of the '80s, and I'm sure to some listeners might be oh, some of it might be redundant, I don't know. But for me, that's an album I just have not been able to stop listening to. I don't know why. And it's interesting how albums draw you in.
Mhm.
And it like doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what's hip. It's like not that those guys weren't hip, they really are, and it's like superbly funky, and the production and songwriting I think is great. But it's a certain kind of thing. And there's just so much great music out there right now that You know, those kind of albums are comfortable for me.
Yes.
Funk, 50s and 60s jazz, or 70s fusion, or CTI records, anything with Steve Gadd on it. It's like that. I'll find records like that in a dollar bin, and I'll be like, like this Earl Clue album that Gadd plays on. Just didn't expect to love it so much. There's a bunch of random albums like that I just find, and it just I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, I can't get over that people made records that great in like an afternoon, or at least the basics.
One record that I came across that I didn't expect was and it's like ridiculously underrated is Buddy Miles and Santana playing live.
Okay.
It is unbelievable. Like, because,
Wow.
he's playing drums with Santana, and it's just this sort of outdoor festival thing. And I mean, they just go into like, because, Buddy Miles, he'll do them changes, do some songs, and then he'll do, Santana will do some stuff. And then they end the album with this just spaced out jam session. It is the wildest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know that one. What year was that?
Let me pull that up.
Is that
Let's see.
back in the day, or is that?
Yeah, it was when let me see. This was um yeah, he did let me pull it up. I'm sorry. I feel
Oh, whatever.
1972 Carlos Santana and Buddy Miles live.
Oh, wow. Okay, I don't know that one. I mean, yeah, I think
It's beautiful. It's amazing. So
that's
it's
great.
oh yeah,
Wow.
it's ridiculously underrated, and I think you're gonna love it. I know you're a Buddy Miles and a big drummer, and it's I mean, just you got Santana playing and experimenting with his guitar, and then you got Buddy Miles and just percussion drummers, and it's just this full out just jam
Yeah,
sessions with, and it's just incredibly beautiful to listen to.
that's that's awesome, man. Wow.
That one out when you get a chance.
Okay.
You started playing drums at a young age. What's probably the earliest musical memory that made you feel like this was your path?
Well, the first time I really was like, this is the thing, was I in the sixth grade. No, I'm sorry. The second grade, I was 6 years old. I did a talent show at my school, my local school. And I remember it went really well, and my dad had videoed it. My dad was really supportive, especially when I was super young. Like, he really would like take me and like set up the drums for me and shit, and like videotape it, So it gave me like this, confidence of like that, because I saw myself doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that was like huge. And he did that for three. Actually, he did that for everything I did until I got into I started to get old enough where I was like, I'm almost a teenager, and stop following me around,
Right.
or
Quit
whatever.
following me, Dad. Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was really cool, and he had these recordings of me playing drums and singing some Allman Brothers stuff when I was 4.
Wow.
And I mean, it sounds hilarious. It sounds like throwing a bunch of like barrels down the stairs with like a tiny child singing a Greg Allman. It's like, but that's what he was listening to, so you can just hear me trying to imitate it. And he was great with the recording and keeping up on things. So I've got those things, and it's really cool. I'm glad he did that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
Uh,
know.
how did growing up around musicians and your family kind of shape your approach on rhythm and melody?
Well, rhythm was there, melody was there, kind of shrouded in mystery, even though I think that I naturally knew melody, obviously.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until after college where I really, and I played piano even. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I started learning piano when I was like 10, and kind of really took to it, and singing too as a teenager, and starting to kind of develop in all these ways. But like, it chiseled away at the truth. It took a long time. And in my 20s, then I really started to understand what a melody was. and like the simplicity, but also the detail of it, and it continues to get more intense, and the rhythm was kind of always there naturally. I guess that also has keeps changing because every year you start to kind of hear a little better, hopefully, a little deeper, and but yeah, I guess, and it changed through development, because there have been times when it's been an instinctual thing, and you always want it to be instinctual. If you can listen to that side of yourself and trust it, that's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but also to be able to surgically understand these things, you get better at it over time. How to subdivide a rhythm, how something sounds, and play it back or write it out or whatever it is. Melodies are the same way, really getting into the detail of phrasing and things, and so those two very important things.
When did you start getting more comfortable about your songwriting process and actually eventually being like, oh, I can be like the front man of a band kind of situation? And then, you know, tell me about even just your first experience of just getting up on stage for the first time, you being sort of, the sort of a leader of a band.
Yeah, man, I was really ambitious in my when I first started, like, and I was in a band that was instrumental, and another member, a fellow by the name of Scott Chaslin, was writing songs, and his girlfriend at the time, Katie Foffel, was also a songwriter, and I remember seeing them kind of, in this other realm. I also knew this guy Robbie Gill, a great songwriter, and I was playing drums with him too. And I think that being around those people reminded me that I had grown up listening to songs. And I said, well, why am I not doing this? You know what I mean? And so I remember I basically wrote a lot of the first Josh Dion band album in the back of the van with this band Ulu,
Oh,
ULU. Cool band, kind of like a Headhunters ish vibe. That was my first touring experience. And then I wanted to sing. And my first couple times on stage, obviously, I had never led a band. And I had friends. Josh Dan Band were friends, from college who already knew each other and already had a rapport. So I was listening to them just as much as they were listening to me. And I wrote those first songs. We recorded. I had the energy of a front man, and vocally was very shy, would let vamps go around for a while before I stepped up, and did not have the vocal qualities I have now, like, at all. It took me a long time to really find my body and my sound and everything, but I got better at it, and especially in the beginning would just go for it so hard that, like, it really drew a lot of attention, and it had a lot of energy, and that band was really good. So I think that people and that's something that I still am looking for in life,
of course.
is that energy, and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, being a leader on drums is interesting because you're trusting people a lot. You kind of need someone you trust up there who knows the songs too, because shouting out chord changes is really fucking hard when you're a drummer. And so, no matter what, it's like, so and it's important to know your keys and just to know what's going on because, you're leading from the drums, and you got to have a band that knows what's going on. Otherwise, it's really frustrating.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Jazz, blues, and funk, you've kind of worn a lot of those hats. Which genre first kind of felt like home to you?
All of them at different times. Blues came out of rock, which is because rock came out of blues, but I obviously found it in the reverse manner. Um, and I didn't really know how to play blues. I mean, I'm just a kid who listened to it, but I loved it. I did finally. start to understand it, I think. I did blues gigs, which is it's like the same thing, but it's not the blues necessarily. And definitely learning a shuffle was a huge part of my childhood, and I'm very grateful that I learned that at a young age. And swing also informs the shuffle, and that was jazz, that was big band, that was the old school drummers of jazz. And then I went through all the different decades, and people came into my life with clues and answers and directions for me to go that led me through all the different decades of jazz, all the way through to bebop, to post bop, to fusion, to avant garde, to everything, just to kind of go through all those different things. Boogaloo and straight eighth and swung in between. Um, and then funk was um, finally getting past when I was a kid. I think we only had Stevie Wonder or Motown, a real blanket funk. Like, what is funk? I mean, when we had James Gang Funk 49, or my dad said Little Feat is funky, so that's funky. That is funk. But then I heard George Clinton in high school, and that was funk, like the invention of funk. And then, but I know James Brown's a bad motherfucker. So then you go check that out, and you're like, okay, this is. Then I got really into funk, and I became like obsessed with funk, in high school. And then I was checking out every record I could, all the different pillars of funk, bands from every major city that had a funk scene, and then really took it to the as far as I could without the internet being a thing. And so those three things are pillars in my life, those three idioms, and it's like I'm still learning all, they're all still growing, and I don't know which one is more of a thing, to be honest. I guess jazz I always love because it kind of is everything
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of you're gonna play all that in jazz. So maybe that just means improvisation, creativity, spirituality, all those things. So maybe that is what it really should be.
Were you more of an audio or a visual learner, or were you just kind of a combination of both when it came to, learning piano as well as learning drums?
Definitely both. Records, any videos were huge for me. I didn't have a lot of them. I didn't like seek them out, and I didn't know to do that necessarily. But Dennis Chambers in the Pocket
Mm-hmm.
was huge. Every note, I watched that like 5,000 times. Um, I had Gene Krupa videos, watching old movies, the Gene Krupa story, which is very Hollywood, but I watched that a million times, and that really influenced me big time. I think that that gave me like a certain showmanship that then when I saw Papa Joe Jones, I was like, oh wow, like this is the shit. Like I should also check out what he's doing and what Sonny Payne did and the way those drummers were totally badass and groundbreaking, but at the same time they were entertainers. They were front people in a sense of their band, and that's what big band drummers were. They were able to be like a feature, like a real special thing within that, and they found ways to entertain as well as play like groundbreaking music. And then I had some worksheets, not a lot of books. Obviously, the rudiments, and like I had that Buddy Rich book. Man, I never got very far with books. I did the John Riley, the first John Riley book. I did learn a lot from that book. George Stone and the syncopation, Ted Reed, stuff like that. I would check out, but man, like the depth of that is not it's not so deep with me. It's deeper with listening and watching others, going to see people live, stuff like that. You know.
Definitely helps for sure. You're famously playing like drums, keys, and singing at the same time. How did you kind of layer? How did that layered setup kind of develop, if that makes sense?
So at the end of the Josh Dion band, I had a leftover gig that was just kind of whatever I wanted to do with it. It was just Josh Dion. And I had been messing around with keyboards and drums and writing new songs, kind of more like we said before, because sometimes drummers they can't speak for themselves harmonically on stage. So and my wife was like, "You got to do something totally different now. You should just play keyboards and drums at the same time." And I was like, "That's stupid." And so I had this gig at Camp Jam in Southern Jersey, a nice little festival gig, real nice big PA. And so Jeff Crayley and I had been in different bands together, and he was kind of looking for something to do. And we were like, and I said, let's do this gig. We had done the gig the year before as trio with a guitar player.
Mhm.
And I think guitar was tough for me because I really like my relationship with Dan Heinman was like epic.
Yeah.
These solos were like through the roof. And I think I expected every guitar player to be like that. And then there's like guitar players, there's so many beautiful spectrums of guitar players. And I was out for blood. So I said, maybe it's time to just not have a guitar player.
Right.
And so I got a Nord, which I think I had a Nord, and
Mm.
we just did the gig duo, man. And man, it was like somehow this gig went really well.
Awesome.
And there's actually footage of this gig, so I'm so glad that it's not a total embarrassment. I mean, there are parts of it that are kind of Spinal Tap, but like the gig sounds good.
Yeah.
And so we were like, dude, what is this? And so eventually he had that little Dave Smith keyboard. We traded something for that. I got into the monophonic keyboard and little more little keyboards and stuff, and I started to work on it, and it really was kind of like a trial by fire because my keyboard skills are like whatever, but I got rhythm going for me at least, and I continued to learn harmony and melody while I did that,
Yeah.
and then really started to figure it out, and like got really lucky a few times, like this drum festival Tam Tam asked me to play, and it just happened to be like a decent performance that they like multi-tracked and videoed, and all of a sudden I woke up in the morning and everybody was sharing it, and so it's like, and then I just kind of got slung shot into this. I'm thinking, people seem to think it's cool, and I really get a lot out of it, um in terms of like, you really can be an interesting solo performer playing multiple instruments, but you got to really live by the code. You can't suck.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's really hard because sometimes it's stupid to do all that at once. It's like, why are we doing this? I see a lot of people doing it now. Some people can really do it, and I think that's cool. Nate Wood brought up a great point. He said, well, think about when the drum set was invented. People had been doing those things individually,
Hmm.
and they probably were like, what the fuck are you thinking, man? you
Yeah.
know oh, now I'm going to hire one guy to do something that I could have had three people doing. So it's like, I think it's all about the musician or the compositions. Like with Paris Monster, we're playing songs that we played before,
Yeah.
and so I have parts.
Yep.
It's not like I just go to any gig and do that and feel totally comfortable.
Mhm.
um and it's especially fun when I'm playing by myself, because then I can just learn songs, and there really is something to it, and I'm just continuing to develop it, but it's cool. But sometimes I listen back and I'm like, wow, like the drumming's not good and the keyboard playing's not good. So you gotta really edit and you gotta work on stuff. It doesn't just, happen. Um it's
Right.
weird,
Right.
you know. But I would say that there are some people doing that where it's really cool
Mhm.
out there.
Yeah. Did you really, I mean, going in, A Vision Complete, incredible song. You probably hear everybody geek out about it. Did you expect that thing to go viral at all?
No.
Right.
Like I said, I woke up that day, and it's really drummers and musicians most of all that appreciated that and followed it and stuff. And it's just so interesting because something I love about that song, and it's like lightning in a bottle. I mean, I don't know, you can't make it happen, and I wish that I could. That song was an improvisation that I played one day on the drums and keyboard. And so it was a really honest moment for me. And Jeff wrote those words on improvised words that I had sung.
Oh wow.
It was one voice memo.
Yeah.
And I had some ideas. And he went in and wrote that whole fucking thing inside of that. I mean, it's to me, to me it's that's as good as my heroes
Yeah.
in terms of what it means to my life to have that kind of experience with somebody. And it does not happen often. And so, and that song is so hilarious too because it's like five notes if you really think about it. And so it's almost like it is a little Spinal Tap. Like a guy gets a delay pedal and is like da da da. I mean, like, I think it makes me laugh. And then we recorded it. Actually, the two of us recorded that. Our friend Ben Shore helped us get that drum sound, but the rest is all engineered by us. And I'm playing the keys and drums at the same time on that recording. And somehow it sounds great. It's not to a click. It was just a beautiful moment. And it's like, I'm just trying to get better at figuring out how to conjure those things up because that was a special thing. I guess people can feel that, and I think that they like that melody somehow too. But the chorus doesn't repeat itself. It's a weird song. It's almost like it reminds me of like David Byrne in the sense of like there's a different chorus after. It's like just a through composed thing. Um anyway, that was a cool moment and we still play that song because we don't know how to ever do another one like that. It's like, you know.
No, you got some great tracks. I mean, all of them, but that one, I mean, I was just kind of going through my feed and then I saw, I think it was one, I'm trying to remember which one. There's a couple of videos where you're doing it in a studio. I think it was with the kids with the headphones,
Mhm.
stuff like that. And then of course I started, going from video to video. I saw you on Drumeo and all these other ones. But I was just like blown away. And for me as a musician, I've known drums, play drums, started shifting over to keys and learning electronic production.
Oh, great.
And that was the one that gave me confidence where I was like, oh shit, drums, keys, and even have some backtracks. And so I started kind of dabbling in that. And you gave me the idea to go, oh shit, I could do that. Like I can train myself to, have, because I got my little micro cord right here.
I love that thing.
Oh, I love it, dude.
You
It
know,
is,
you know, the original Vision Complete was a microKORG.
was it? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
hearing that.
and I had found one that was a sound that someone else made on a used one that I bought.
Yeah.
And when I got another one, because someone stole it, and when I got another one, it didn't have the sound on it. And I was like, I mean, I know that someone could get that sound, but that exact sound I never found again. That was it.
Wow, that mofo has a great sound though. What was that the one where you go, okay, this is small enough, but I can adjust it accordingly. Like what made you want to pick that one?
MicroKORG keys were too small.
Okay, yeah.
And so to play live, once you start rocking out, those small keys, it's just bad.
Yes, it is.
So it's hard to find small keyboards that save sounds that are really cool. Now, Dave Smith makes Dave Smith instruments are incredible. And they've got some tiny keyboards like that one especially. Now it's only monophonic, but I'm trying to hook it up to my Tetra now to get chords. Because I don't need much space for chords either. Like I really don't need two octaves even to be able to play the music that I need to play. And I just keep, with Vision Complete, it's just kind of a any kind of sawtoothy synth is fine with the delay pedal, and then you can mess with it with all the different knobs to figure out how you want it to sound and save it,
Yeah.
which is why I love Dave Smith instruments. I can save it, but it sounds amazing. It's not like some digital preset of BS. Anyway,
No, I get it. I get it. Um, what part of your brain activates when you're balancing rhythm, harmony, vocals all at once? And do you go into a kind of trance or flow state when you're in that moment?
I think that I want the vocals to be looking down at its own body in a sense.
Yeah.
The vocals are dancing on top, and the core is the drums and keys, giving you the foundation of what a bass player would be doing, you know? And I think that I've got some patterns on the drums that I play all the time,
Hmm.
like my go-to,
Yeah.
because that is going to become second nature if I'm improvising vocals or singing, you know? And I think that I'm thinking about the grid without really like without hopefully losing the moment. I am paying attention to the grid of rhythm with the synth bass
Hmm.
because that's got to line up with everything. And the vocal, I want to be able to have the vocal subdivide.
Yeah.
And I want to think of it all happening at once as if it's on a grid in the moment. And I'm this is happening in naturally, you know, but it is happening where I'm considering where I'm putting the bass and I'm freeing my upper half to go up on top of that.
Yeah, of course.
And if I want to go over the bar line, I'm really considering that. You know what I mean? And it's like all of that's happening while the groove is still got to be there. So most of the grooves are backbeat oriented,
Hmm.
and so one thing anchors and the other thing can go. You
Yeah.
know, and so that's how I'm thinking about it. You know,
No, I get that. That's yeah,
yeah.
brilliant. I can yeah, totally understand. Do you write songs differently when you know you'll be performing them as like, of course, a one-man orchestra versus like a larger ensemble?
Yeah, I don't perform any songs solo right now that are original for the most part. Sometimes maybe something, but I don't perform solo that much right now. I would love to. I mean, but I have worked on tons of covers as of late, and am considering doing shows just even of that. Um, and yes, it's considered because I use two keyboards usually. Although, let me just say, I'm also working on doing solo drums with voice,
Oh, okay.
just drums.
Yeah,
A-
wow.
And I got about 20 to 30 minutes of material. I mean, obviously I can just improvise, but like it's after like 20 or 30 minutes, you're like, okay, I'm cool, man. That's cool. You know, that's enough. Um, I have that for synth and I do improvise a lot. So sometimes I back myself into a corner. Sometimes it's a little not what I meant to do, but I continually get better. So I've got songs that are just the mofo with the delay pedal that I sing.
Yep.
I've got songs that are the mofo and the second keyboard, which is sometimes the Mellotron or the Dave Smith X4.
Wow.
Um, Sometimes if I'm gonna play drums with a backbeat, I have to consider the bass has to be on one and three if the
Mhm.
snare is on two and four. So I have to consider the bass being either a drone
Mhm.
or something that is only hit on downbeats.
Okay, yeah.
And then my right hand becomes the mellotron, which is really the rhythm guitar.
Okay, yeah.
So there are songs I have that I have not completely finished yet, where the bass is one and three or one or whatever, and it's holding a note.
Damn.
While and then you can, just like any groove, just like any Latin groove you'd work on, where it's a pain in the balls, four limbs. I'm working on that with the keyboards. You know what I mean? And then and it's the same kind of thing. And then the to me the right hand is it feels best when I've got that delay pedal going, and it really is like a rhythm. It wants to be Paul Jackson Jr. You you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so that is what I'm doing with that. And I'm usually just doing triads, two notes, just kind of trying to find voicings that are cool,
Yep.
that are like not super dense.
Of course.
And then the bass, can be whatever it wants. Or like there's just a million ways to do a solo show. And then sometimes I can if you put, I'm giving everything away right now.
You're
If
okay.
you can, if you put a sustain pedal, plug it into the Dave Smith, and you reverse the polarity, you can hold a note or hold a sequence.
Oh yeah.
So if I want to get like some Depeche Mode shit going, I can press C and it's just gonna go da 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 da, and then if I want to turn it off, I just press the pedal. You know what I mean? And so that's another like crazy thing that you could do if you wanted to. You could do tons of shit. Nate Wood probably would know a lot more about this than me. He does stuff like that. He's also got his keyboards with a long release so that when he hits a chord, it like lasts for a really long time. And that's another thing that you could do. You could do that with the Mellotron. If you wanted to play a chord and have a long, maybe not the Mellotron actually, you'd have to have a pedal for that. But if you wanted to do it with the Dave Smith, you could have that release be up. So you need to fuck around with the different knobs to like figure out a sound that's going to give you like a long, gives you time to
Nice.
get to the next thing.
You need the
You,
space. Yeah.
you know, and to get a full sound so that you don't sound like a guy who's struggling, you know,
Right.
and really, because then what's the point of it all? You know, so it's like, and it is whatever. I mean, sometimes I can get a feedback going with the Mellotron, and then I can play some sick bass while I'm listening to this fire alarm go off. And I mean, there's like so much you can do. It's really cool. But now I keep getting back to just the drums and vocals because I feel like that's at the essence of who I really am, you know. And that's also so cool. I haven't been doing that in a minute, but I want to. So
Hear more. Your cover of Bill Withers during the Drumeo, I was like, do you have that recorded yet, or is that just something that you kind of pulled up while you were
okay, so which Bill Withers song does
uh
it say?
shit.
Is it "Kissin' My Love"?
No, it was you kind of started off with it.
Was
Uh
it "You Use Me"?
no, crap, which one was it? It was it When I'm
Well,
Gone? Shit, hold on. I'll
don't
pull.
worry. You know what? You don't have to pull it up.
Yeah. You
I
did.
won't. I won't record it, and the reason why is because Bill Withers is just. It's too great, and we don't need another version of it. Like I always use Bill Withers as an example because I wish that I could write songs like that, and hopefully someday I'll be able to find that essence that he had in those songs. But like, I feel like a lot of those songs are overplayed, but they're great to play
Yeah.
because they're just
Classic.
they're classic. They're simple enough
Yeah.
so a band that hasn't rehearsed can pick it up. And they're great examples of drumming and singing.
Hmm.
Number one, James Gadsden was a singing drummer. A lot of people don't know that. He sings. He sings on Loveland by Charles Wright and the Watts 103rd Rhythm Street Band. I'm sure he's sung on more things than that too. Um, he is a singer. So that being said, he wasn't singing in Bill Withers' band, but he plays those grooves, those iconic 16th note style grooves. And I think that the rhythm of those is like great to study for singing drummers because like if you can sing that and then play drums, you're doing all right, you know, because I think that that's a great lesson. Any
Yeah,
of those
that's
songs.
kind of what you were saying at because I mean I watch the Drumeo all the time just to kind of, just a refresher course and just love seeing you work at your art and your craft. But yeah, it's pretty much how you said it was just if you're learning to play the drums while you sing, it's just good to just kind of keep the beat and then just in your own exercise and your own vocals, just try and work out whatever song that you're most comfortable with. And it was just like I was just like
Right.
whoa, shit. It was so good. So
That
good.
thank you, and I think that that's another thing is that yeah, it's like whatever. Think about what you know already so well
Mhm.
that you could do it 10 different ways.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like for me that's Bill Withers
Yep.
because I've sung those songs a lot. I love them. They have melodies simple enough to put different arrangements underneath. You could do Ain't No Sunshine
Yeah.
with mallets
No sunshine. That's what it was. Yeah.
and a low E natural drone or something and like, you know, a bell tree, you know, and you could do that and it would be cool.
Oh, yeah.
and there's a lot of songs. Blues is like that. I do a lot of blues because of that, and I do some older folk songs because they lend themselves, especially anything that people sang just voice.
Hmm.
That's another thing that happened way back, and it's occasionally people do that still.
Yeah.
It's just the voice, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
So
How do you stay inspired musically in an age where trends kind of move so fast? Are you still going back to the classics? Is there anything kind of off kilter that you like to listen to, especially when you're kind of dabbling in keys? Do you kind of go like, oh, ambient, or are you kind of just bouncing around trying to find inspiration?
yeah, I'm bouncing around. I'm in the wind.
Yeah.
The wind is blowing everywhere, and it's friends who get into things that I'm influenced by. It's those playlists that I make, and it's what I hear on the radio. I listen to a lot of independent radio, and I Shazam a lot,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
and I try to keep track of that. I go to the record store, and anything that I'm interested in everything. I'm just interested in records at this point. Like I got some amazing records. I mean, I've been listening to a French harpist. I've been listening to Herb Alpert. I've been listening to Della Reese. I've been listening to Ornette Coleman or 45s that make me feel like I'm 7 years old again, like whatever it is, along with Spotify. God help us, I'm listening to that too. I'm trying to keep up, and I'm checking out friends' bands on Instagram who I respect and live in LA now and I haven't seen for 8 years, and it's like all of those things. And I go run in the woods and I pray to God that I can hear nature,
Yeah.
and
Of
then
course.
nature
Yep.
will inform me just as much as any of those things. And so and I go to New York and I go and I see bands. I go to Lowlands down in Gowanus.
Yeah.
I go to Barbez in Park Slope. I go to, the Bitter End.
Mm-hmm.
I go wherever I can, man. I go to New Blue. I go wherever the fuck I can.
Yeah, man.
So, you
I know
know.
it's so great. Just New York, like, I mean, I'm St. Louis, so we got certain, venues out in St. Louis, or if I take a drive to Kansas City or whatever. But there's some great, Blue Notes out in Columbia, Missouri, and stuff like that. So I mean, there's all kinds of, venues, and I mean, everything's popping up and everything. So yeah, I mean, if you can find that inspiration and just kind of hold on to it, I think it's a wonderful thing. Do you have like a non-musical inspiration? Books, movies. I know you meant,
Oh man,
yeah.
you'll never get there.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all around us at all times. And I've been depressed in my life, but lately I haven't been, thank God. And I'm go to the library for the first time in a long time. I'm really interested in my local history,
Hmm.
and I've got really into my trail maps. I run on the trails. I live near state parks, three different state parks. Matter of fact, I'm smack dab in the middle of it all. And I run, and I not only do I run, but I have kind of memorized some of the trails and some of the there's abandoned iron mines, because this whole area of New Jersey and where it borders on New York too is just like one huge iron mine basically. And a lot of the steel that built New York City in like the 1800s and stuff came from here. And so I have been just any waking moment where I'm not, taking care of my kids, which is almost never.
Oh, happy
But
Father's Day. I didn't know that you're a father.
thanks,
Happy
man.
Father's Day, buddy.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
I've
got
got
three
two.
I got
I
three
got.
daughters. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Same to you.
Thank you.
I love having kids, and so I that takes up a lot of my time too. But
Oh, definitely.
anyway, my local history. There's so much. Even just life is amazing, because it's like even when you get into something like that, I'm like, for me, how am I gonna ever even get all this? And
Right.
it's just one tiny part of our country. It's just like, you know,
Yep.
and so that's inspiring for me. Just to learn the stories of others and to get into maps.
Mhm.
and to exercise and listen. And I listen to music while I'm doing that. I'm like writing down lyric ideas, or I'm learning songs for gigs.
Mhm.
So I try to do all that together, and so that's my current inspiration. Other than family and still my parents. I have to say I'm so lucky. My parents are still with me,
Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
and so you, that is what it is.
When you get an idea, are you a notebook person, or you kind of go to your phone and go da da da, or you kind of do it like a lyric or anything? What's your go-to?
It's both. Yeah, it's definitely both.
Yeah.
And I have too much of all of it. And now I have a home studio, so it's like the ability to be able to record an idea the first time uh is one of the greatest thrills in life.
Mhm.
And to have that actually sometimes end up at the finish line is incredible.
Right.
And I'm really grateful for it. So yeah, I love, I mean, I'm sure everybody loves starting songs. I feel like it's almost a crutch for me because I love to start something new.
Mhm.
It's almost like an addiction, and it's like I gotta pull myself away and finish other shit sometimes,
Hey,
and and then I have to focus and realize that I can find that same inspiration. It just takes a little bit of burrowing
mhm.
to get back to it,
I
you
get,
know.
boy, you just folders of ideas, and you're just like, just finish it, just get this done, and then move on to it. Oh, yeah, I,
That's my biggest issue, but at the same time I'm enjoying life, and it's like you gotta find a way to trust yourself enough to, because you gotta realize that it's always going to be you.
yeah, of course.
So you got to find a way you got to figure out how you operate,
Hmm.
and if you need to leave a little space for yourself to do those, to be a little quirky, you got to figure out how that can turn into eventually finishing things. And that's at least the way I'm trying to think about it,
Absolutely.
you know,
Um,
but
is there a theme or a message you hope audience take away from your music, even if it's unspoken?
a theme or a message.
Hmm.
I have no idea. I have to be honest. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I have one sentence or any one idea. I feel like I'm getting from so many different directions right now. I guess you know what I will say, and it's over said, but it's so true. Is to enjoy the journey.
Hmm.
You
Absolutely.
know, because I'm at a point in my life where like it's not necessary. I'm gonna close this window.
You're good.
It's not necessarily it's like you never know where you're going to end up, and
No,
you always have to look at where you are and be like, God, thank God I've got what I've got.
absolutely.
But you also have to be like, fuck this,
Hmm. I
I
need.
have places to be.
Yeah.
So I have finally learned to just be where I am and be like, okay, awesome,
Yeah.
I'm cool, let's move forward.
Hmm.
And and if I have to think about the past to kind of come to terms with things and get healthy,
Yep.
then I've got to allow myself that. But at the same time, it's like letting go of things and just pushing forward, and it's helping me enjoy the journey, to
Good.
realize that. And also with music, it's like it is not about recognition. It
Hmm.
is about that journey. And although all those things help, and we're all performers,
Hmm.
so, but it really is the journey, man. It really is. And it's just like I've got some songs that mean so much to me. I want to put them out, but at least they're in me.
Yes.
And it's like they have enriched my life.
Hmm.
Now, hopefully they'll get to a place where they can enrich someone else's.
Yep.
But it's like but they're happening regardless. And it's painting a picture, and it's telling a story. And
Hmm.
it's like you got to allow your life to be that
Yep.
somehow, because that's what an artist is, you know.
And
So
one thing I learned, and I got it from David Lynch, is he says any idea is a gift, and you need to embrace that, because no matter how surreal it could be or whatever, embrace that idea, music, visual paint, whatever art that you do and that idea, it's a gift and you need to see that as a blessing.
Yes. I think I remember that clip.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so true. I mean, you're just a human, and it's like, time is moving. So if you can look at things like that,
Mhm.
it's just going to be better. I mean, it's just more opportunity. That's it. And it's like, just grow and believe in yourself, and it's like, and we all have to do it. So it's not like one person is standing there and not having to do it and just saying, yeah, why don't you try this? It's like everyone has to own up to it. So it's a thing.
No, I agree.
You
Absolutely.
know?
Great. Um, let me try to get some. Your live rig is a bit of a marvel. What was your biggest challenge in building the setup that let you do so much on your own?
Well, reference all those things that I said before about like the pedal and the release and those kind of things definitely help sustain or pedals. Um, and I think sometimes tuning my drums with like the open bass drum and the bigger hi-hats so I could get the flange on the hi-hat to kind of sustain any kind of sustain. You want to think drums don't always give you sustain, so any way you can get a little could help you, or it depends on what you want. Other than that, it's not a lot. I actually try to bring as little as possible to the gig.
Oh, right. Makes sense.
Bass drum, snare, one tom, hi-hat, crash, which I have not used sometimes, and one keyboard, either direct, depending on how big the stage is. If it's a smaller place, you want an amp for sure. And with Paris Monster,
Mhm.
the modular synth fills out a lot of the rhythm, so it kind of gives us like a cage to fill out. And Jeff is doing all kinds of other stuff, so it's like that is more of a full sound.
Mhm.
To play solo feels way more naked,
Yeah.
and you're just trying to find any way of sustaining. Also, it's arrangement, because if you wanted a song to be super staccato in the beginning, then that's what it is.
Right.
There's music can break down to one thing. It could just be kick drum and a voice, and it's all about how you arrange the instrumentation. Um, Trying to be more than one person it may result in you sounding like somebody trying to do that. You know what I mean? And it's like you could just write like bass line comes in here, then it's just hi hat and kick and vocal, the next part, and however you can figure it out.
Does your studio setup kind of differ? Do you have extra keys or do you even have the modular synth there? Or does Jeff have that? Like, how's your kind of home setup? And then what do you use to record on? What kind of do you use digital audio workshop? Like, what kind? I'm into
I,
the.
I, I have an Orion, an Antelope Orion 12 channel interface,
Yeah.
which I have not even scratched the surface with. I have a bunch of mics, probably a lot of the mics that everybody has, and definitely enough mics to get a good quality close mic drum sound. Um, and I've got a super reverb amp that is awesome with tubes.
Ooh.
I've got, and it's just that has been enough for me to like literally come leaps and bounds from where I was 5 years ago. I didn't even understand how microphones worked really. So like and I just beginning my journey. I've learned Pro Tools. The one thing I will say is every once in a while I get some kind of a magical moment. But it's a lot more of like, you know, holy shit, that sounds average. But there's something about the creative moment and also having friends who are really good mixing engineers where like I can get some good results. And I'm trying to think anything else. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've got extra keyboard. I got the Mellotron. I got two Dave Smith, one polyphonic, one monophonic. I've got three drum sets. I got a kick that's really dead. I've got my bigger kicks that I don't really put anything in. Got, Evans has sent me tons of drum heads, so I've got like all different, layered drum heads. Got a bunch of different beaters for my kick drum.
Yep.
So it's like all the things you need to make music. I got tons of cymbals from Meinl, different
Hmm.
types if I want rivets or whatever. Like, it's you can kind of concoct anything you want. And I have a baritone guitar, few capos, and an acoustic guitar, and that's it, and to me that's and some percussion.
Yep, of course.
Yeah, and so it's just like, I mean, I could make tons of records just with that stuff, and
Oh, yeah.
it's really amazing. And I just want to keep getting better at it, man.
Yeah, keep trying.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a moment where you felt completely lost creatively? And if so, what pulled you right back into the creative moment?
Um, yeah, lost, very lost, and lost creatively.
Mhm.
I think, I guess just the fact that it's all I live for
Yes,
is one thing,
of course.
so I'm lucky that it's ebb and flow. And I've really felt like crap before, and then somehow something will plop in my head and I'll be like, God damn, that's a good sentence for that one song I'm working on, and like write it down, it's just, or something will come on, a song will come on, and it's like it pulls me out. The people in your life can pull you out, your kids can pull you out, it's like a lot of things, or you have to learn how to just be like, man, I'm going downstairs
Yep.
and I'm gonna play. And it's just like I said about burrowing before. Takes about 5 minutes of being uncomfortable, but sometimes you'll just be like, fuck, I feel good all of a sudden.
Yeah, of course.
It's the same thing as with your body if you haven't stretched in a while, or like if you want to do anything, it's like, you got to warm up. You got to get yourself going.
Yep.
A lot of times if you make yourself do it, you'll be glad that you did.
Mhm. No, I agree on that.
So, I mean, sometimes you also have to step away and let other things happen, and you also have to have days where you don't do anything. I mean, it's all part about being a person.
You feel that, right?
You know.
What's something that you learned from musical failure or a gig that went wrong?
Uh, I have learned at times about how to be like a team player, and how to keep tempo
Mm.
in a professional manner from older musicians that I really looked up to. Um, I think that there were times when I did gigs where I felt over my head and out of my element and stopped believing for a moment and started to suck on a gig with people that I revered.
Mm.
And, I usually made up for it in the end and ended up finding myself. But there were moments where I was like, oh my God, maybe I'm not like on the same level as these guys, and second guessing myself. And I think what I learned is that you got to kind of like, your ego can go both ways. You can be an asshole and think you're better, or you can think that you suck and
Mhm.
it's just as bad.
Oh yeah.
To really like to put yourself down and to not be 100% ready to embrace the entire situation, because that's what a drummer has to do. Doesn't matter who's there.
Mhm.
You have to be fully available and fully there. You can't be sheepish or like bashful,
Right.
and I think that there was a few times where I was like, you know maybe these guys will carry the weight for me because I don't believe 100%. And it's like, it can't be like that. You gotta let go of yourself and give the music what it needs. And for a drummer, it's just keeping time and having good feel,
Yeah.
playing the music. So those are hard lessons that I learned when I was younger.
And I think that's why they say, a drummer's the backbone of the band because if you're if you don't have your backbone or your spine, everything just kind of lays that. You know what I mean? Like you don't have that energy, and it's why it's
Yeah.
important to just have that backbone, have that beat, have that energy. And even just in that moment, you go, just try and keep the confidence up in just this one moment and give it to the band and give it to the people out in the crowd.
Yeah, I think that I was more instinctual in my early 20s, and I think that I didn't know what I was doing. Like I think that the groove, I was playing to the people on stage
Mhm.
and almost marking their time with an instinct of
Yeah,
listening where
absolutely.
like I had good time. But then I think that I realized also that people also play and they expect the drummer to just keep good time no matter what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think that like once I got to that, I had a hard time doing that because I was like, wait a minute, you want me to be the strongest one?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, that's what you're supposed to do. And then they're just going to play off you. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, have they been doing that the whole time? You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. I think that I just didn't get that at first. And that was a hard thing to realize, like, oh, they just want me to keep time. Like, and what's good time? Listen to a guy like Steve Jordan or someone like that who plays such beautiful time, or Abe Laboriel Jr. or someone like where it's just like the time, the space between the notes is everything.
Yeah.
You
Basically
know,
everything.
it's basically everything.
It's everything. And I learned that from the drummer for James Brown. Like it was all about space and the perfect beat and the perfect time. I was just like, how did I not see this before?
That's always what it is, though, and it's so simple. But at the same time, everyone knows drumming. It's easy to pick up,
Yep.
very hard to be that good at it
Hmm.
because it is such a skill to be able to understand time like that and to be relaxed and have a flow and to also be that backbeat, and the backbone and it's especially in different stages, man. I When I would play a bigger stage, I would lose time because I wouldn't understand my time relative to someone who was so far away from me all of a sudden. Start the song and it might sag a little because it was like, wait a minute, I'm trying to figure out how to feel everybody. It took me a minute to figure out how to play on stages with monitors.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
not the same as being at the 55 bar and in a corner. So it's like there's so many factors.
Yeah, where do you feel more comfortable venue wise? Are you more comfortable in a club or a theater or just even at a small jazz bar?
I love clubs.
Hmm.
I love low ceilings and sweat and people buying me drinks and wanting their picture with me and whatever, even though I'm annoyed sometimes because I'm sweaty and I don't look that good. But I will admit, I love the club.
Yes.
2 sets,
Yep.
take a set break,
Hmm.
you know. I don't know. There's something so special about it. Um, And especially with Paris Monster, I love bigger venues because you feel like a titan playing synth bass
Right.
through a big system,
Oh, yeah.
like with side fills and shit. I mean, it's like I literally feel you know, like P Funk is just exploding out of my body, and it really is quite a sensation. So yeah, that's also great.
I know you did a few gigs with the Darkness. How did that go?
That was just exactly what I explained. It was awesome. I mean, I'd like to think we made some new fans. We definitely made good friends with the Darkness. They're super cool,
Great.
and it was an interesting pairing, I think. But their fans were widely received us. We're a good opener for someone like that because our stage imprint is actually like really small,
Yeah.
and we get a massive sound in these places, and it was awesome, man. It was such a ball.
That's so cool.
Really cool guys.
Yep. Very cool. He's got a cool podcast where he'll just unload about music and just geek out about it. And it's so
Yeah.
neat.
Man, I mean, that's how we got the gig is because he discovered us through Nate Wood, actually, because they're buddies, and that was how we first met him, was through the pot. He put us on his podcast. He played our song, and it was like kind of another cool moment with the old internet, where you're like all of a sudden people are checking you out.
Notice you.
It's cool. So yeah, he's a good guy. He's really There's just so many great. I mean, actually taught me a lot vocally.
Hmm.
Justin Hawkins.
Yeah.
I still use this straw that he gave me for singing.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
it's like a singing straw. You just put a little bit of water in like a bottle and
yeah.
do your exercises. And like I swear to God, if I do more than 3 shows in a row, I have to do that.
Is it the bubble exercise?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
taught me how to treat my voice because I wasn't raised a singer. Like definitely did not have correct technique. And that's another thing about singing from the drums is you really want to overblow because you're sitting and you're like playing this bear of an instrument. So anyway, those guys are cool.
Yeah. Are there any dream collaborations or genres that you've been kind of itching to explore that you haven't done yet?
I have a lot of collaborations with friends from the scene that never happened that I would love to have happen. I don't have any that I like think about. That's not true. They're all people that I look up to and that I could ask
Hmm.
to collaborate.
Right.
They're all people I've played with. But I'm just waiting for the right opportunity, the right music, and just financially having a means to do those projects. Getting more acquainted with labels and trying to figure out how to find a home for certain music. So it's like, but I've got a list,
Yep.
and definitely when I write songs, sometimes I'll hear a texture and I'll be like, that's a specific musician I know that I have to have on this. It might just be one person on each song.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah.
Cool. Um, One last question, and then I'll let you go. I really appreciate your time. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. I look up to
good.
your
Thank you.
music, look up to your technique, just all that. It's one of those moments where, as a fan, I'm like, you took the time to be on my podcast, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Justin. I have to be honest, I didn't even know what it was about, and I had a ball. I really did. Thank you.
So I always end my podcast with if there's anybody listening to this, looks up to your music, looks up to, just want to try and find something to kind of get them through the day by listening or watching this podcast. What words of advice do you have for anybody who's listening or watching?
Oh, I would just say to just really just trust what inspires you, and to just really go with that, to just practice those things,
Yeah.
and just, I mean, I guess that's the best I can, other than that entire spiel that I gave earlier. I would say that, you really can. There's so much out there. I guess, it's great. It's great to just choose a direction and, yeah, choose a direction. I don't know what I'd say to somebody. I mean, I would say to just choose. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Okay. No, I
I,
think
I,
for
I
me.
gotta say, I feel like I may have answered that in another question, and I'm not entirely sure
Oh,
how to
yeah.
how to re say it. I feel like, um, I don't want to ever discourage somebody
Of course not.
to go after what they're inspired by, because that's what got me anywhere.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's insane right now, the amount of information obviously that we've all got. So um it makes me think that maybe people do have to choose a direction sometimes. Because and I know I'm one of them. Like, I'm constantly, like I said, about 10 million things today.
That's okay.
You know what I'm saying? And so I can't tell what the better answer is.
Okay.
There are people out there who are type A personalities who can say, I'm going to do this.
Hmm.
And I don't know what's better, whether you could do that or just enjoy life
Go ahead.
and just kind of go wherever it takes you. So all I can say is good luck.
Oh, hey, that's good enough for me, man. I
You know
really,
what I'm saying?
no, I get it, dude. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Josh, thank you so much for your time, dude. I really appreciate it. You've been a
You're
delight.
welcome. No, it was great to talk to you, man. Good luck with everything.
Thanks, man.